Brotherhood, multiplication, restoration. We are Sin Network. We're a family planting churches together. Journey with us as we hear from church planters all across North America, discovering what it really takes to plant churches everywhere for everyone. This week, I'm with Milton Campbell in Atlanta's Atlantic Station area to talk about Midtown Bridge.
So, man, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great, brother. Enjoying life.
Good, good. How's the wife and kids?
Man, my wife, Christina, she's doing pretty good, man. Keeping busy. My daughters, they're growing. Same thing. You kind of know how it is with family.
And I know, this is the first year for basketball.
Yeah.
Like, you already got the track athlete thing going and all that. But how's that been as a dad navigating kind of the sports and
as that father? Like, you train as an athlete, like you're just competitive.
Yeah.
And you want to sometimes compete through your child.
Yeah.
And so me trying to let her find her own way, it's like, but she's getting it. Like, I see a lot of potential there and a lot of willingness to work hard, which is the thing sports build into your children.
A Division I athlete, you went to UNC, right?
Yep.
University of North Carolina. So you competed at the highest level. How do you not transfer that to your kids?
Yeah, I think, you know what, I won't say I don't transfer it. I think the big conversations we have with them is like, you know what, at the end of the day, bring your best. Like, don't leave it all on the court, leave it all on the track. That's all we ask.
Is that your integration, like between kind of as a, not to have that traditional PK kid, like where daddy's always going, daddy's always absent, he's always doing stuff in ministry. Like, is that naturally how you kind of intersect with your kids, or is it an additional, like how do you balance that tension between kind of work and ministry life and daddy-daughter time, or just that integration?
You know what, it's a moving target. I think right now as a family, Christina and I, what we typically do is like, we're very intentional with like our family planning and trying to guard the calendar. Not saying that everything is gonna fit in that neat box, but we try to make certain that we're constantly communicating and thinking about, okay, what does this look like for the girls? And we made it early on. My wife is a PK, her dad's a pastor.
Yep.
And so she got a chance, which we always laugh about her. The two things she said she didn't want to marry was a pastor and a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And I was like, why you didn't say a millionaire?
A millionaire. Because you were both down there.
Exactly, I know. It's like, doggone it, we missed it.
You got money.
But I think from that, where it really has been kind of us being very intentional early on, just to say, how do we make certain that they don't feel like they're in this fish tank and they can't just be who they are. And again, it changes each season, but I think it's been exciting watching them learn how to just like leverage their influence, or learning, better yet, not learned, but learning how to leverage their influence.
And how long you been pastoring again?
So I've been the pastor now at the Midtown Bridge for about 6 years. So approaching 6 years, it'll be 6 years in March.
When did when did that call to ministry? When you knew that you was gonna be doing full time? Because before that you did.
Yeah, track. So I did professional track. I was in the corporate sector for a while, but about 2002 is when more so 2001 is when that burden, just feeling like, man, God was calling me potentially in ministry. And I'll be honest, like me being a professional athlete at the time, I ran. Like literally I ran. I mean, you can say—
because you didn't want to be broke.
Exactly.
You're trying to be that millionaire.
Exactly, that's it. And so I think, but from that, man, God just started just pursuing my heart, and I just started realizing, even though other people around me were saying, hey man, God is calling, we see it.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, I'm not listening to you guys. I'll know when it's time. And finally, it just became overwhelming and clear, like this is what God was calling.
Was there a certain thing that made it overwhelming?
You know what?
Like,
I think
it was an event.
It was a series. It was a series of events. It was one of just looking at the environment. I feel like I had kind of a prodigal son moment where I was like running so. And I think looking at the environment I was in, it was almost like that prodigal son, like I don't belong here, I think. That was part of it. And then also I think it was part of the other part of the journey was, at the time, my mom had probably about a year or so earlier had gotten diagnosed with ovarian cancer.
Oh.
And coming from a single parent home, like it was like my mom, 2 older brothers and a younger sister, it got really real.
Yeah.
And so even though I knew the Lord, and the Lord was allowing the Lord to use me, I guess allowing, if that is such a thing for the Lord to use you, but I think that was kind of like that aha moment of like, okay, God, what are you saying?
Was there a person that came and said, I want to disciple you, I want to put, like, when did that kind of seriousness kind of come?
I got to college at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill on the track team, and there was this guy, Dave Tegler, who was a part of Athletes in Action.
Yep.
And Dave was one of those guys who just would not leave me alone. Like, he would show up, my dorm, he would call me, just checking in. Christmas break, they were having Impact right here in Atlanta at the airport.
Okay, and what year was that?
This was 94, the fall of 94.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was 96, so you must be a little older than me.
So he invited me, but let me tell you how Dave got me. He invited me early in the semester. And he was like, hey, you don't have to pay anything, I'll pay the money for you. And I completely, I was like, you know what, get him off my back, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I gave him a yes, and I ended up going to, so I forgot all about it. So I show up at Christmas, I'm here in Atlanta. He's like, hey, Milton, how you doing, man? You know, the Impact Conference starts tomorrow. I'm like, Impact, what's that? It's, the conference. And so I started thinking like, I'm not going, like, nah. And he started, he guilted me. He used some good guilt to get me there. He was like, man, I raised the money and, you know, and all this. I'm like, gave my word, he raised the money, I'll go.
Okay.
And I went, and I'll be honest, that was the first time I really saw like black minorities like in the space like that were really serious on fire for the Lord.
Yeah.
And I remember a real turning point for me even in that trip was, I don't know if they still did it by the time you went, but we would go out and do street evangelism.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So we're in a neighborhood literally about 10 minutes from my home.
Okay.
And we're knocking on doors. And so, you know, each one of us would have to kind of lead the journey and go to the door and say we're in the neighborhood. And so everybody going and, you know, we're getting the doors just shut in our face. And finally it was like, hey Milton, it's your turn. I'm like, I don't even want to be here. Like, oh my goodness. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I'll never forget this, looking back. There was a young girl had just moved here from Florida, and she was gonna be going to Banneker High School.
Okay.
And we ended up sharing the gospel with her, and we led her to Christ. And she called her aunt downstairs, and we led her to Christ.
Amen.
So that just kind of started just challenging my thinking, like, okay, maybe God really can truly use me and wants to use me.
That's huge. I mean, even as a church leader, I'm just really trying to get our people to understand that the power of being used by God in that way is life-changing.
It is.
Right? Everyone thinks it's about me getting my blessing and all that, but when you are a conduit of God's grace, dog, that is it. I mean, so that's what we're talking about. We're doing a series called Encounter, and it's like, who's your one?
That's good.
All of those things that just kind of that national thing. And so that's huge because it's life-changing, because I really do believe if God can use our people in that way.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that is a pivotal moment. I think about, like, I was that guy, I'm confident. Had you looked at my life and some of the evidence or lack of evidence, you'd have been like, yeah, it's questionable.
Yeah.
Like, and now, like, but that was a major turning point in my story towards me becoming a pastor. So once I transitioned off staff at Elizabeth, I'm working with UIWI. I feel like God was telling me that it's time for us to make that transition out of that local church. But I had a love for the local church. So I think I knew early, about maybe 3 years early, I feel like God had told me I was gonna plant a church or be a part of a church plant. So I felt very clear. Didn't know when, but I just knew that was on my heart. And so when my wife and I, when we ended up landing at the Midtown Bridge, that was one of the first questions I asked. The leadership at the time was like, hey, you know what? I really feel like God has given me this burden to plant a church. Man, is that gonna be okay? Is that something you guys can get behind? And is that against what you all feel called to do here? And it was very supportive, like, that's what we wanna do. We wanna launch out other churches.
So you started off with this burden to plant a church, not at Midtown, but to plant a church somewhere else.
Yes.
Where was that?
So I was thinking at the time, so when I got to the Midtown Bridge, I was thinking at the time it was gonna be like in Southwest Atlanta, which is, Camp Creek Marketplace area, a really booming area. So that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, eventually I'll plant a church, maybe 3 to 4 years out, I'll plant in this community. So I came there thinking that was gonna be my journey.
Okay.
But God had a different story.
Yeah.
So part of our journey was we get there serving in leadership, getting the opportunity to really grow as a planner, started going through the assessment process, and I think that's even when we connected. I was going through some of the assessments and just learning, like, what does this whole roadmap to planning a church look like? And I'll be honest, like, even through the journey, I was like, until God sends the right man for the job. I did not see myself as that guy early on. It wasn't until later on in the process.
How long in the process? I mean,
it was probably
because you literally wasn't a candidate.
Yeah.
You know, they was like looking for candidates for the whole traditional filling the
process,
pulpit, and all that. So
this was about a 10-month search process. And so I'm there just, hey, what do y'all need me to serve from time to time? What does that look like? And honestly, I think at that point they had asked me to lead the children's ministry because of, because of my background in children's ministry. So I was like, you know what? I mean, I can do it. I don't feel called to that in this season, but you know what? I know there's a need and there's a void. So hey, I have the ability to do it. I'll do it. Yeah. And so that was really kind of how I was serving during that season. And I think just through that process, we just fell more and more in love with the people. And your wife, always, I think, God definitely will speak through your wives in some significant ways. And my wife's here early on in the process, like, I really feel like God told me that you're gonna be the next pastor here. And I was like, I don't know, I can't say he said that to me. I'm open to it, but we'll see. Yeah. And so I think that was just kind of the journey of just waiting and just serving the people, loving the people, and just trusting God with the outcome. And I think my heart was just so much so, like, I really wanted to see this church survive through it all. So it was like, but I'll be honest, like, it was like, I'm here, and if it's meant to be, it'll be. But I think UIWI had me so busy. Right. I had very little time to just think about, like, hey, what's going on here? It's like, you know what? I knew God had called me to UIWI at that time as well, and I wanted to be a good steward of that opportunity. So it was very much being focused on trying to steward well that opportunity. And then about 6 months later almost, that's when I learned, hey, we're kind of in this part of the process, and man, your name is one of the top names in the hat, and it was just kind of like more so just waiting then, and we'll see where God lands it.
You talked about you didn't have a roadmap. I mean, we've also had a pastor fail. It wasn't the lead pastor, but we had a pastor fall and all that. Like, what is a roadmap that you would give looking back, to me, to anyone, like, what is that roadmap? What do you usually tell pastors when it comes to, man, one of my pastors just failed, and he was a prominent figure in the church, and what would be a roadmap?
I would say, I would say what I've learned would be, one, go slow. And especially depending on your type of leadership wiring, if you are a driver and you like to just go out and kind of claim this, I say slow down, because your people are gonna really need a lot more pit stops, because it's so much of the hurt they don't even know they're dealing with, because it is so traumatic. I mean, it's so traumatic in the sense that, like, the person who you probably, human figure per se, may have trusted the most, like the person watching over your soul, has let you down in a major way.
So it's being a part of Sin Network, and just kind of going through the ups and downs of ministry, those things, like, how important is that kind of brotherhood, familiar for both your wife and for you?
Yeah, it's huge. I think for any pastor out there who's planning on leading and they're trying to be, kind of go the Superman route, like, I'm gonna do it all by myself, or the Lone Ranger route, like, that's such a dangerous place. Yeah. Because just that brotherhood and even sisterhood that's offered through the Sin Network, it's so life-giving. Just the encouragement to even just, one of the ways I know the enemy works oftentimes in my life, and I imagine many pastors out there, is the feeling of just like isolation, and something happens about, like, you feel like it's just me. Yeah. But then when you get in this brotherhood of this network, you realize, okay, it's not just me. There's this normalization that happens. Like, you know what? It's not necessarily normal per se, but there's a lot more pastors and leaders like me going through something very similar.
That's good. I definitely want to know how well you know Atlanta. You're from Atlanta, right?
I'm from Atlanta.
You're from, because I knew you went to school in North Carolina, but you're from Atlanta.
Yep.
Southwest?
Yep, Southwest Atlanta, Frederick Douglass High School.
Good, Frederick Douglass High School. How well do you know your city?
I think I know it pretty well. I laugh. My wife always clowns me because she thinks, like, I've lived east side, I've lived west side, I lived south side, I lived either northwest. Like, I've lived all over the city just growing up here in Atlanta.
Good, all right. One of the reasons why, as I'm traveling around, with what I'm doing, I get a chance to talk to church planters all the time, right? And everywhere I go, it's a couple of things I always hear. Man, this city's so hard to plant in. This is such a difficult this, and we're the number one in this, we're the number one in that. Like, so everyone has the most diverse city, like our Clarkston, the most diverse square mile. Everyone has something that makes it so difficult. All right, what is your pitch when some donor comes in and talks about planting in Atlanta? What are some of the things that you say, or what are some things you commonly hear?
Yeah, I think for me, I would say to that donor, like, what makes Atlanta, one, the gospel needs to be planted here is, one, you think about just, like, because of the business of Atlanta Airport, you got one of the, it's one of the highest kind of, as far as statistics of, like, sex trafficking happening in the city. Okay. So you got that, it's like, man, that's right here in the city, especially look at the west side of Atlanta, all over Atlanta, but you look at, like, that west side, you got the whole heroin epidemic there. I mean, it's just so many things here where it's like, man, the gospel needs to be planted. that. Like, end of the day, yes, more police. We need that. We need more regulation. But in the day, we need the gospel. And so I just think about just some of those dynamics that's taking place in the city of Atlanta. Like, it really is a city that needs the gospel. You look at the nations, you think about the college campuses, like so diverse. And it's like, what better way to like literally reach the nations than planting a church like in the city near a college campus?
And you're like, what? A 5-minute walk? How far of a walk from Tech are you?
It's a 5-minute walk from Tech, and then on top of that, like we get a lot of Georgia Tech students. Well, not a lot of Georgia Tech students. A lot of our members are Georgia Tech students per se. But yeah, so it's like right there, like it's right, pretty much.
Are you doing
on the Tech
anything
campus.
intentional to reach them, or is it just more organic because of the nature of how
I think
you are?
so. I would say we could beef up our strategy to reach them. I think it is probably just more so the relationships we have on campus and trying to serve some of those ministries on campus. We do a good job of just partnering there. And then we do prayer walking on the campus. We do partner with some of the local ministries on campus when they're doing some of the, engaging the students with the gospel and things of that nature. So we'll send our members down there from time to time. Even in our community, because Atlantic Station being so close to Georgia Tech, a lot of the shopping, the hanging out restaurants and things of that nature, they will come to Atlantic Station.
What else, like how hard is it? I mean, you have kind of since the birth of Midtown, the setup and tear down, you guys are in a movie theater, you're in kind of this live, work, play environment. I remember when I first came here, it was just like, man, this is like the club on Fridays and Saturday nights, like people. So I mean, like, how is it doing ministry in Atlantic Station?
I would say, one, it is hard, but then two, it's exciting. And so balancing those two, it's hard because like it's a very transient community. Like the average person stays in Atlantic Station community for about like 3 years, if they're lucky.
So it's like college.
It very much is. So we actually have had to reshape our strategy in light of just like, if we had a college student, same thing for the adults who are coming here. So I think that makes it a little bit difficult. And then you add in set up and tear down and just not having that awareness that sometimes, a building can bring that stability and awareness of like, okay, at least I know there's a building there, even if I don't know what's happening inside that building. So that forces us to be a little bit more creative.
And it's a Regal.
It's a Regal movie.
And so in Regal is intentionally trying to put churches in their place to use that space, because when does like movies start?
Most movies don't start until 12 o'clock. So they have the whole when screens are dark kind of business mindset where it's more so like, hey, we're not making any money there, so why not make some money off that space? And for them, it's very profitable because the only thing they have to do is get a manager there just to let us in. And then the movies start at 12. So pretty much everything from that 6:30 window when we're there, and we have to be out by 12.
One other thing that, man, and please don't answer this wrong because I will clown you, right? Seriously, when someone comes in the city, man, I love burgers. I'm a burger guy. Right? I love burgers. I need burger. Give me a burger. Best burger in Atlanta.
Man, I'm a vegetarian. No, I'm just joking.
I was just like, all right.
You know what? That's a tough one. I enjoy steaks more than burgers, but the burger spot I think I will go to, I like Fox Brothers. Even though that's not on my side of town. I like Burger, even though it is a little bit more kind of, but that would be the one I would probably take someone to that's closer to me in my neighborhood. That's a tough one, man. I think.
I was going to clown you if you would have said the Varsity, because most of the people who come, they come to Atlanta and they're just like,
take me to the Varsity.
You gotta go to the Varsity, and I'm just like, I just look at him, I give him the dumb.
People go there for the experience, but not for the food.
What kind of experience? Experience of being treated bad? Experience of being treated rude? I'm trying to figure out what experience
I don't know.
people are trying to get I'm so glad that you just said the Varsity, because you are Atlanta.
I question if you say the Varsity, I'm sorry.
It's definitely not. It's definitely not the Varsity. All right, cool.